Okay.
Hey, and welcome to the Influential Nonprofit. As always, I'm your host, Mary Andersch. And I'm always making best friends on this podcast. And I have my new best friend, Christine Miller Lester. And I'm so excited to talk to you because I thought I've been in this business for a long time, but you've probably been in this business longer than me because I started in 92 and you have 40 years experience, which is so much. And we are going to talk today about leadership, learning development, and making a lasting impact, which I really believe in and have talked a lot about. So, Christine, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I always start with the first question. So, tell me something that you're proud of that you don't get to brag about a lot.
Not, I'm not a great one for bragging, to be honest. I'm quite often told I don't put myself out there enough. Um, I'm most proud of, I think, my son. My son. My son is everything that I wished I'd have had the chances that he's had. He went to university when I back in the day when I was that age, my father said to me, "I'm not sending you to university. You will just waste my money because you'll get married and have children, and I won't see my money."
Wow.
So I didn't go to university, but then a lot of my friends didn't either. It wasn't a big thing back then. So I really wanted my son to have the opportunity that I didn't. So when he said what he wanted to do, he was 11 when he told me what he wanted to do. And he never changed that. That's
Wow.
what he
That's
stuck
for
to
some
all the
people, that
while.
is really a thing. Yeah.
Yes. So now he's got his own business. And I think, well, he did everything a lot quicker than I did because he had those chances. So yes, I'm the most proud of him. Uh,
Oh. And I love
I,
that you're giving him what you didn't get, right? We can end the cycle, or
mm,
do that healing for you as well. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
how did you get into nonprofit work then?
Well, I was actually into non-profit work before I even started the company because I used to work in, I think you would know, our National Health Service. And I worked first of all, I went there as a temp and I think they forgot about me. And I was there 5 years later and they were still paying. So I think they sort of forgot Christine was, was sitting there. But I got to start the first community nursing department that we had in our hospital, and saw what the nurses have to do when they go out to patients and care for them in the home. And then I went to work in a hospice. So then I saw how much nurses give when in the last month of someone's life, because that's usually all they have. They come in for the last month. So I saw how the nurses care for people when they're dying, and I saw how they looked after the relatives as well. And then I only worked in admin. I wasn't actually a nurse. But my boss lady, the director of nursing, she said, "You're wasted here. You're the best PA I've ever had, but you're wasted." And I said, "Well, where should I go?" She said, "I don't know, but I think you have to find out where you want to go." So then I met another wonderful lady almost by accident who said to me, "I want you to come and work for me." And I said, "To do what?" And she said, "Teach." And I said, "Teach? I can't teach. I haven't been to university. What am I going to teach?" And she said, "You're going to teach what you know." And I said, "Ah, okay." So that was where I started teaching young people, the unmanageable age, sort of 16 to 20, when they hadn't gone to university. Parents couldn't afford it. So they had gone to college. So they came to my college and I taught them business administration. So I loved that. That was really my role, teaching. I love teaching people something that they don't know. So then things didn't go very well. The lady who started the college, she died quite suddenly, and we sort of lost our way a bit. And eventually, the colleges just sort of disappeared. We got taken over one by one. And the lady that had been head of academics said to me, "Why don't we get together? Why don't we um, start a partnership?" Well, if you want to do teaching, if you want young people to have qualifications, in the UK, you have to be quite strict. And really, partnerships are frowned on because we're not considered to be as strong as, say, a limited company. So I had to learn how to start my own limited company. And that's almost the first thing that you asked me to look at was non-profits. Well, we started out more or less as a help for non-profits, um, and trying to encourage them to look at what we call governance, is
Mm-hmm.
how they set up. How do they how do they set up so they don't fail? Or at least, like me, in the first 12 months, the lady I started up with, she decided it wasn't for her and she left. So that left me totally on my own. Um, and as I say, it was quite frowned on to have a single person or a partnership actually running a business such as ours, because normally you would be a college or a big institution, not a
Right.
small outfit. So really, that was what we had to do quite quickly: is learn how to not make the mistakes that sometimes partnerships and small business can make, and by governance, by actually understanding how you're going to build that company and how you're going to build it to be sustainable, and how is it going to compete with the colleges and the universities, because we were just as good at teaching. We hadn't got that great mass of institution behind us. So, but we were still competing. And actually, in the first year, I got a Duke of Edinburgh award for a young lady who actually went right to a level 4 with me. She went right from, I think she'd done a level 1, and she went right to a level 4. And that had never been heard of before. But that was just the difference in the way I wanted it to be.
Right.
Again, I suppose looking back to my time, how do you make it easier for people to leap forward when they haven't had the opportunities?
You know, your story is a lot of women in your life who identified greatness in you that you couldn't see in yourself.
Yeah,
Like I just saw that pattern, right? They're like, "Oh no, you're
yeah,
you can," and you're like, wait, what, me?" And I'm wondering, like, how if that's the gift that you're giving to the nonprofits that you work with, right? Like the idea of like, "Hey, I can see your greatness even if you can't see it, or I can show you a way to access that." Is that ring true for you?
yes. You've got it, absolutely. It is about showing people a learning pathway that could be right for them so that they could expand very quickly and get to the top of their profession. And I do a lot of talking to women in business, and I've been to number 10 to Downing Street to see the Prime Minister, to
What?
talk to him about women in business and say,
Wow.
you've got to help us women more, because we've got young, most of them have got young people that they're bringing up. They have to take them to school. They have to, if they're ill, they
Sure.
have to have time off work. Uh, and something that one of them said to me during a meeting, she said, but we also have to look after our older people as well, our parents. And I hadn't realised that, because, I'm of an age where my parents were quite elderly anyway. And I'd only got one son, so I hadn't got perhaps the enormous problems that they got. But yes, I feel passionately about women in business, and taking away some of those barriers.
Right. So, one of the things that you focus on is creating lasting impact. And that's one of the things that I focus on too, because, sometimes I feel like, or what I see is organizations could actually perpetuate some of the very causes or issues they want to solve.
Mm.
Okay, so I foster dogs, right? I foster puppies and dogs for a rescue. I've known this rescue since since its inception. Okay, they're
Yes.
building a massive new shelter. It's $5 million, like maybe 50 million. Like it's like millions
Wow.
and millions of dollars. But what are we? So now we can house more dogs. But what the problem is, there's always going to be another dog, right? There's always going to be another person who without a home, without a meal. And so when I talk about lasting impact, what I'm saying is, what can we do so that people aren't hungry in the first place that need to be fed, or that there aren't, right, there's less stray dogs in the world that need to be taken care of. And
Mm.
I'm not saying there's one way or the other way, but like, I feel like a lasting impact is, how can we solve this problem, right? Not just maintain the conditions. Like I'll hear of an organization like, oh, we've been around for 150 years. I'm like, are we really bragging about that? You haven't figured out a way to solve this issue in 150 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, the one of the
Mm.
organizations that's my client, they have a plan to put themselves out of business in the next 20 years, right? They have a plan to make sure that they're no longer needed, right? That the foster care system, like the services that they provide to this, is now part of the foster care system. They're not, right? They're not needed anymore. And to me, that's
Mm.
lasting impact. So I just want to know, what does that mean to you, and why do you feel like some organizations struggle to make an impact, even though their cause is good, right? Their mission is good.
That that I can't believe this because it's so incredible that that I'm a dog person. I've had dogs all my life, and I can't somehow understand how people can be so cruel to animals, to
Yes.
even abandon them,
Yeah.
because they don't understand what's happening in their
They
life.
don't.
So I have had the opportunity of writing bids, and together with another lady who was passionate about in her country what was happening. So we wrote this bid about how community can get involved with shelters, and how can we how can we deal with the problem now? Because although the UK has a history of being a dog loving country, everybody says, oh, it doesn't happen in the UK. Actually, it does. We have shelters. We have animals that are really badly treated. So anyway, we sat down, this lady and I, she was Romanian, and we wrote this bid, which the European Commission accepted because we twisted it slightly, and we looked on it as a community project. Wasn't necessarily about dogs. It was about the community being empowered to want to solve a problem. And it just happened to be the problem we'd identified was the dogs or cats. We didn't
Right.
differentiate
Right.
between the
Right.
two. So we spent 2 years looking at what is it that empowers people in the community to do something like that, and to make those shelters last, to be sustainable. Because I think you're absolutely right. They are totally dependent on volunteers. They're totally dependent on people donating and keeping a cash flow going, because they're like a business in some way. They've
Mm-hmm.
still got to raise enough money to feed the animals, so they've got to be sustainable. So that was what we looked at for 2 years, and we had some wonderful outcomes that we then passed on to the shelters here. The 4 or 5 other countries came over to the UK, and they saw what we were doing, and we went to their countries to see what they were doing. So we actually got enough evidence that we could take to all 27 countries. And I was really quite proud of that. I thought, well, it started off with just being two ladies who cared deeply about how animals are treated. but we actually got the message out to 27 countries, how to empower people, how to treat volunteers, how to manage volunteers, because again, somebody has to manage them, otherwise it's chaos. You've got them people coming at the wrong times, and food not arriving at the right times. So we dealt with all of that. And then we thought, right, okay, we've done it in 27 countries. It's now up to them. They have to take it forward and they have to do it. So we've got off track a bit. but but to me, businesses in the third sector are no different to businesses in the first or the second. They still have to be sustainable. They still have to have good governance. They still have to have good leadership. So all those topics actually belong in every project that you do.
Right. So what makes an organization have good leadership? What does that look like for you?
Oh gosh, that's almost a separate subject of mine, leadership. I've done so much work on the different aspects. And in fact, only today I've been talking to another lady, another Christine, who's written a paper that's all about kindness and love in the boardroom. And she's quite right, because leaders don't necessarily think they have to show compassion to their employees. That they think they have to be autocratic, and lead, and it's somehow be solitary. But really, the leaders of today, they need to be more compassionate. They need to be um, more caring, more understanding, more compassion to maybe their women employees. Um, so all of that you don't always get in one leader. You get different parts of that, but in different leaders. And very rarely do you find one leader who encompasses all of that.
Right.
So it's very you could go on forever talking about leadership and what it means and how it happens and how it doesn't happen. I mean, I never thought I would be leading two organizations. I just didn't think that could be possible.
So what are your so your organizations are the Minster Development Center, and what is the other one?
The other one is actually more visionary. Well, that's what we say on, on all our applications to government. We say we want to be visionary. We want to look at what makes a successful business of tomorrow, not the business of yesterday, because things have changed, and not the business of today, because change is here now, whether we like it or not. But what will the business of tomorrow look like? And specifically with AI coming along, how will that change how we act? Uh,
How will that
Again, I had
change?
an
Because
instance
I don't think it's
today.
coming along; it's here. So how does
It,
that
it
change?
Yes, but it's still not very good, is it? It's not refined enough for us to be able to use on a. I mean, just take the note taking. I did a meeting last week, which was really quite important. It took my notes, but I was the guest. But the host of the meeting, she said to me afterwards, "I've got no notes." And I said, "Well, did you say before we started that you wanted notes taken?" She said, "Oh yes, I set it all up." And she was quite cross at me, questioning whether she might have done something wrong.
Right.
But I checked all that with her, and she had done it. She said, "Well, send me what you've got, your notes." Blow me if I couldn't do that. Wouldn't let me do that. Wouldn't let me send my Zoom notes to her. And then when I cleverly, I thought, I asked AI, I said, "Tell me why the notes didn't work and what do we do to rectify it in the future?" And AI spewed out a great big long list of things I could do so that it didn't happen again. But I think that's where AI is good. But then I think we have to sit above AI to be able to know when it's telling us the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So we can't just accept it. We can't just think because AI spewed it out, it must be correct. We have to look through it and we have to say, no, that doesn't seem right. or no, I don't think that's quite how we said it.
Yeah.
Um, so I
And
think,
go ahead.
sorry, what's your experience? I'm interested in.
Well, I would say, I, for me, like the ideas are all mine. The content is all mine. Like I'm saying, hey, I want to talk about, I did a podcast a couple weeks ago, what karaoke can teach you about fundraising, like, and like that was my idea. That was my topic, right?
Mm,
It helped me sort it out. You know what I mean? But the topic and the content was mine. So like my point is, we still have to drive the ideas. I think it also can really help as far as like the note taking, the admin work, the repetitive admin work of
mm,
life.
mm, mm.
And also, but what I find it most helpful is, hey, I have this idea of this concept. Help me help let's flesh it out. But that's still my ideas. It's still my content. I did a thing like about relationships. It's called Water Don't Watch, and it's the idea of like in fundraising, like constantly checking in. You don't plant a seed and stand over it, right? You plant the seed and then you water and you walk away.
Oh, yeah.
So like the idea of like allowing relationships to grow and giving that experience, that was my idea, right? That was my concept. And then I went to it and I said, help me, let's flesh this out. And then I look at those ideas and say, is this feel right, does this not feel right? So yes, there is a filter that comes through. And also those concepts are still mine. They're not coming up, I'm not using it to come up with the concepts. Those are still my ideas. And I think for me that's helpful.
Would you want to protect it though? Once you develop something, would you want to protect it, or would you want it to be out there for everybody else to take?
Well, I feel like information is free and readily available. So I mean, these are concepts that I'm putting onto my podcast anyway, or I'm sharing,
Mm,
right? So I want they're being created in order to be shared. Information is free and readily available. That's still not me, right? That's not working with me. Information is not transformation. So I'm happy to share these concepts and happy to teach people how to build relationships, but to really learn, right? That's to really learn in a way that you're going to be able to implement them into your organization, into your life. That's transformation. And so that's what people are paying me for, right? Not
mm,
information. It's the transformation. It's, yes, this seems like this is something I want. Help me learn it and implement it. That's different than information. So I'm happy to share the information, I knowing that's not transformation, right? That's what you need me for. And so that's my distinction, and that's why I share what I know. I wrote a book, and my book writing coach, I said, what do I tell them? How much do I say? And she said, tell them everything. It's not you. It's still not, you know what I mean? Tell them everything, because it's
mm.
not, you're not giving anything away. I feel like sometimes we think we're giving something away. I am giving it away, but like, then, oh, if they have the book, they don't need to like hire me, but that's not it at all, right? I'm sharing that with them, but if they really want to learn to be transformed, that is more one-on-one. That is the
Mm.
connection, the coaching part of what we do.
Yeah, yeah. So many people want to put copyright on stuff, don't they? And to stop it being copied elsewhere. I think that's also a big issue to lots of people who've spent a lot of money developing something, an
Yeah,
idea or something,
and I
to
get that.
then,
I get that.
feel it's free to everybody.
Yeah.
So I think those are the issues we're going to have to solve.
Right. And I get there's a proprietary, right, and also right, proprietary or copyright and things like that. I get that people want to do that. There are certain things I have copyrighted, but not like these concepts in a sense. Um,
Mm.
okay, but I do feel like that is, I mean, this is where we're going. We can't avoid it.
We can't stop it now.
Right. We
No,
can't. No,
no,
it's here. Sam
it's
Altman,
here.
what have you done? Okay. Um, okay. So I would love to talk with you because you talked a lot about, you know, we've talked a lot about leadership and the culture, and how can you, what in your experience, um, how can nonprofit leaders create cultures where people can learn, where people can grow, where you can strengthen your mission? A lot of times I think we do get bogged down in the work it's rough out there, you
mm,
know.
mm.
And I've seen a lot, unfortunately, of very, you know, unhealthy cultures in nonprofit. And I sometimes I feel like, I mean, I'm sure there's unhealthy stuff everywhere, but I just know the people I know that, how can we create cultures that where people can learn and grow and that strengthen a mission?
I think uh, that's really where I hope I come in. Um, when I'm creating a learning pathway for someone, I want to look at making them a complete and whole person. Um, and I'm certainly not looking at creating a personality that's in my image, let's say. I don't think that I've got anything that they can learn from in that respect. But I think what you can do is you can create a culture of giving and giving in a way that is acceptable to people so that you're not belittling them or you're not making them feel smaller than you in any way because you've achieved something and they perhaps haven't yet. But you want to create that calmness where they can be understanding of issues that will arise in the workplace and how they will solve them. And they won't have the answers to all of them. But I have in my lifetime, I've been very lucky to come across some leaders that I now think of as my role models. There are my two ladies that you already identified, way back that gave me that chance when nobody else would have given me half a chance at anything like that. So there's those two ladies that, although the one lady was losing me when she didn't want to, the other lady was bringing me in to create something to help her business. There was no doubt about it. That's what she wanted from us, was to create her business. So that was the two people. But then there were a lot of people in business itself that have written books on leadership and management. I don't know whether you would read any of them. Charles Handy is quite a one I look to quite often, but he's now in his, I think he's in early 90s, late 80s if I got it wrong, Charles. Sorry. But he wrote some really good books on leadership and management. I also met Anita Roddick. You heard of Anita Roddick?
I think so.
She started something called the Body Shop,
Yes. Yeah, of course,
yeah,
of
which is
course.
now licensed all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
She started off on her kitchen table, cutting up ingredients, but she wanted ingredients to be wholesome. So she went to the faraway places like Peru and came back with samples that she got from the forest. And then she put them into her perfumes and her body creams and lotions and everything. And that's how the Body Shop got started. Just her and her husband on the kitchen table making these things that then became household products. Well, everybody wants to buy products from the Body Shop because they come with this image of fair trade and and all that's associated with it. Now I met Anita at a conference in Birmingham, and she came up to me afterwards and she said, I've been told I should talk to you. And I thought, oh, Anita Roddick wants
Wow.
to talk to me. And she said, do you know, she said, I really believe in what you're doing. This is when I was starting my second company with all the visionary stuff, that people didn't want to know about at the time. And she said, I want to say to you, pick up the phone anytime you want and talk to me. She said, I will be there for you. And I thought, wow, how many leaders say that to you? They will make time for you because their time is their most important thing that they've got
Yeah.
to give. So I think Anita is another one that I like. There's another lady who is still going. She runs, I think you've got it in the States now, the cookery contest. Prue Leith.
Oh yeah, of course, Prue.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
Prue Leith. I met Prue years and years ago, about 25 years ago, it must be. And she, again, is a lady that exudes confidence, and she's got where she has by being good at what she does, but also giving. You get the feeling when she's creating some dish, she's creating it for you. She's showing you what she does with it. And so again, she exudes giving something of herself.
Yeah.
So yes, Prue Leith is another one I model on. But
And
there's lots of them that all give something.
yes, so all these leaders, they could be in a place where they didn't really have to give anymore, but they're so, Anita's,
No.
let me be here for you, let me, give, give, give. And I love that because I teach people, the art of influence, which means when I'm of value to you, you'll be of value to me. So the only thing I have to worry about is, am I being of value, right? Like
Mm,
if I'm of value, there's like there's, the series of books like The Go Giver, and it's all about giving, and it's a tiny little series of books, but it's all about like people in business, and the more you give, the more you're going to get. And we tend to be worried about what we're going to get first, and if we get what we want, then we'll give back. And even in fundraising, if I get money, I'll put your name on the wall. The idea here is I'm going to give you value. I want to give you, because when you feel seen and heard, when you feel valued, then you'll be more likely to give to me. And maybe not, and that's okay, because my only job is to be of value.
mm,
And that's what I'm seeing in all those, right? Like Prue, and she's wonderful, and I love that show. That, hey, I'm here of being of value, you know and even in the way that she mentors the people individually, like on the show, how she gives feedback and things like that, is really interesting.
mm, mm. Well, yeah, well, I think all along the line we're giving our knowledge, aren't we? We're passing on something that we've learned from somebody else. And if they
Yes.
didn't share their knowledge with us, then we wouldn't have anything to share
Right.
onwards with the
And
next.
right. And good leaders always have mentors. Like good,
Mm,
like you never run out of learning. You never stop learning. And there's
mm,
always people in your life. I look at like a waterfall, like the water falls onto me, and then I can fall it onto other people, and they can fall it onto other people, and in that we're raising the vibration of everyone, right? When we
mm.
all learn to be more conscious
Yeah.
leaders, more giving leaders, we're giving other people an opportunity to do that too. And I
Yes.
feel like that makes an impact. That makes a vibrational impact. I'm going to talk wooey now, but that makes a vibrational impact, because if all of these cultures we're creating of giving, and like when you were talking about, your friend wrote the thing about the boardroom, like that we can have kindness and love and honesty, that's going to create a better
Mm.
organizations, create better communities, better everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're getting up on time, so I want to ask you, like, if you could give any nonprofit leader. I tend to work with executive directors and development directors of like smaller organizations, mid-size ish. If what they often feel like they're carrying things alone. They're carrying the weight of an organization alone.
Mm.
What wisdom would you give? What would it be for them, given all your experience and all the things you've done? What would you tell them?
I think the one thing that we've got now that we certainly didn't have when I started out, although it was starting to come, and that was networking. Um, and now I find that leaders want to network. At one time, leaders wouldn't network because they were afraid they were giving away their company secrets.
Hmm.
So they wouldn't embark on something like networking. But now we've got things like LinkedIn, and within LinkedIn there are groups, and there are groups of people who are doing leadership. And I find that's very helpful, because if you've had a really rotten day, you can log on and you can find somebody there that will give you a few minutes of their time and say, look, it's okay, you've had a bad day, but tomorrow will be better. You know, so that didn't happen years ago. You didn't have that instantaneous um, pathway to. I was just thinking, I've got a couple of chaps that are they're lovely. They find something to have a rant about every morning. Something sets them off, and one is quite a famous author and the other one's he's quite high up in the business world, and they go hammer and tongue for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'll chip in and I'll put my pennyworth in. I'll say, well, don't think you're quite right there. I don't think we believe that, do we? And I try and put a different perspective on it. And I think if you've got a group of people like that who are leaders, and as you say, that it's lonely being a leader, you haven't got somebody immediately beside you that you can confide in, but you can find a total stranger who lives thousands of miles away, who can help you to identify what your problem is. What is it what is making you so angry? Why can't you calm down and see things as they are? So I think that's really important.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's so important, like that, because we have access to so much more networks than we did,
Mm,
before. And I think, we before all of this, we had like monthly luncheons. That's where you saw people, and you probably had to wait another month to be able to unpack something, and now you can
yes.
just jump on and have a community. And I'm really taking advantage of those resources, it sounds like. Okay, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to connect with you and to learn more about what you do?
Oh, I'm very active on LinkedIn. Um, I've got on Facebook, I've started a group for nearly every project that I've ever done, because I like to keep people connected that I've worked with in the past. Just because the project's finished doesn't mean to say I can't speak to those people again. So I created a small group on Facebook where we can continue to put in what we are doing. Just a way of keeping everybody connected and
Yeah.
going forward. So yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook. I'm not so much. I'm only just getting going on YouTube, to be
Okay.
honest. I've only just
And
sort of got the hang of that.
so we'll put the links to find you on LinkedIn and on the Facebook and all of that. We'll put them in the show notes. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Like any last bit of wisdom before we end?
No, I just think these podcasts are really good for getting to know people, but then I end up thinking, oh, I wish there was more. I wish we could do it again and do a
Yeah.
different topic, or think. Yes, it's a bit like my projects. I don't want to lose contact again.
Right.
I want to keep
Oh,
in contact with you and see what you're doing.
absolutely. I tell you, I started this by saying I made a new best friend, everybody. So yes, absolutely, we can stay in touch. And also, if you want to reach out to Christine, I will put all the links in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been great. Thank you.